Today, I'm joined by Emmy-winning composer Carlos Rafael Rivera and Emmy-nominated songwriter and scoring mixer David Stal, whose work on Miss Figuritas is one of the highlights of Hack's perfect final season. Carlos, David, it's so great to have you on the show.
It's great to be with you, Robert. Thank you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
So first of all, I think congratulations are in order. Congratulations on your Emmy nominations. That's very exciting.
Thank
It's a
you. Thank you
privilege.
very
It's a,
much.
it's a privilege. Thank you.
The beauty of it is that you guys have been working together for so long, and now you finally get to celebrate an Emmy nomination together. And also, David, you received a second nomination as in your role as a scoring mixer. So that is amazing. Take us through, David, first of all. Where were you on the morning of, and how did you find out, and what was your immediate reaction?
I did hear that the nominations were going to be posted that morning, so I purposefully turned my phone off and didn't want to know anything. I turned it on after I was sure that the nominations would have been posted, and I got several texts and emails, and I figured, okay, we got the nomination, and I didn't know what it was for at first, and then we figured out, oh, it's the song, and then Carlos actually was like, what? And the scoring mixer too. So I had to go back and check, and it was really surreal. You know, like you alluded to, we've been working together for a long time, and Carlos, of course, has been awarded and nominated for his wonderful music on other projects, and the fact that I get to share it with him is truly a blessing. Yeah.
Absolutely. What about you, Carlos?
Same thing. I mean, it was like really, I was not expecting a nomination. I think we did the awards run because it's the thing to do. I teach at the Frost School, and I teach this actual job, media scoring and production. And I tell my students, like, the job is over, not when you're done with the job, but all the way through the campaign, through everything, so you can actually see the job through. And this was a great exercise in what we thought was futility. And, but we were
Yeah.
so happy to celebrate 5 years of working on Hacks together and being able to kind of get the recording sessions that we're able to do and just support the work we had done for 5 seasons was really our purpose, at least. So we could go to bed knowing we had supported that. But getting a call or the text I got in the morning from Thomas saying that we're nominated for the song, I was like, are you kidding me? And I was just so grateful. It's never grown old on me. And so it's just getting to talk with you right now is, I know how ephemeral this industry is. And the fact that I've been doing this for a while now is something to pinch myself about. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, and absolutely. Now you just got guys can just live in the moment, enjoy this journey. Like honestly, I know it's easy for me to say I'm not a nominee, but it's like you win, you lose, whatever. But this journey and being able to say you're part of the conversation as some of the best work on TV this season is magic. So let's talk about
It
why
is.
you're nominated. Um, when I first saw the song being performed by Deborah Vance on the show, I laughed out loud repeatedly. It's so funny because it's so wonderfully ridiculous, just like the best parts of Hacks for me. Deborah Vance, just for people who don't remember, Deborah Vance decides she wants to complete her EGOT, and this Spanish language song about porcelain figurines becomes part of that grand, absurd campaign. I think we should listen to it. Let's do that. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
We're ready.
Mis cigarritas que solo yo puedo querer, de porcelana que solo yo puedo perder, son las que más quiero yo y solo son de lladro, son mi vida.
Now, that is fantastic. If you can remember how she was performing it, it was just beautiful. So the question is this, is it the shape of something? Why do you think that Jean Smart was able to elevate it in this way? Because she's obviously a comedy legend, but the way that it's packaged, filmed, shot, the whole thing, I think really elevates the song. So Carlos, what were your thoughts when you first saw it on screen?
I was so happy with the way it turned out because I wasn't there on the day they shot it. I was standing by, and we were standing by because they needed us to kind of do a transcription or modulation of the song so it could fit her. She had worked on it in a certain key. And then they're like, we need to kind of go down or up. I don't remember what. And all of a sudden we're like scrambling, trying to get the new part to them and to the pianist and the rehearsal pianist. And but that was so unexpected because, and it's something I've talked about before, we've mentioned before, the song the song was part of something that had to do with the performance of the actors. Hannah Einbinder's reaction as Ava Daniels is amazing. Jean Smart playing Deborah Vance is impeccable, and I think she's the reason why we're here talking to you, honestly. And of course the backing band they got, and the editing and everything that comes from the folks. The song really was a product of going back and forth a lot with Lucia, Jen, and Paul. They wanted a song that was going to be potentially something that could be competing for a Grammy in the regional Mexican or Tejano category. And I think I'm getting ahead of things, but it's coming out, so I'm just going to go with it. But one of the things they had asked us to do was to kind of get something that was actually could compete at the level. And so we reached out to an old friend of mine called Sebastian Chris, who is a producer who's won many Grammys. He's worked with Shakira, with Carlos Vives. I mean, a bunch of people, and he's an old friend of mine. And I said, listen, we have this song, but we want to get it right. We really want to honor and respect the category and do something that could actually do that. So he hooked us up with a friend of his called Audio Vaquero, who's won Grammys in that, or not been nominated in that category, won multiple Grammys. So getting that part right was the most important thing. And then getting it approved, of course, which is what gets it to Jean Smart and gets it to the scene and for you to watch and enjoy. So long answer.
Yeah. No, but I like the background because, David, what I love about this song is it's treated with such sincerity. That's the point. Like it has, it's something that Deborah Vance would genuinely believe could win her that Grammy. And that's what makes, and then of course, when you see Hannah Einbinder's reaction, she's really like, yeah, you're doing great. Inside in her eyes, you can see she's dying. Right? That's what makes it so funny. So, David, how do you then avoid tipping it into parody too quickly, because we do have to go along for this journey?
I think that we've had experience with that throughout the whole show because they never want anything to tip into parody. Anytime we get too close to what a comedy piece of music is, they say, no, we want to go back towards center. We want it to be serious. We want to let the performances really sell the funny. And we don't need to help them do that. They do that on their own, as we were just talking about, Jean and Hannah. They're so funny, they don't need us to make something funnier. So all we can do is support it with the seriousness, not serious, but like we play it the way that it's supposed to be. And so, this song is just a lesson in collaboration. Carlos and I, also with the producer, also with Jean, it takes this whole kind of village to make the comedy work. And it's something that's not lost on us. And we're not trying to make you laugh. We're trying to let a situation unfold, thanks to the beautiful writing of our showrunners. And then because of their genius and the way everyone has worked together, then you laugh.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's a short song, it's short and sweet, but because it's playing on so many different levels, it's actually quite sophisticated. Instrumentally, it's beautiful. The lyrics like Mis figuritas que solo yo puedo querer is so sentimental, dramatic, but also ridiculously delusional because it's about figurines. So my question to both of you is, when you're shaping the song, you're starting from the comedy of the objects, obviously, the emotion of her attachment to them, again, ridiculous and hilarious. Well, I'm just wondering what inspired that? Like, why figurines, or why was that something that you thought that's ridiculous and funny enough that we can make this work?
Well, I mean, I guess I could speak to it, David, a little bit. Like the fact is that we've had a running theme or attachment that Deborah Vance, the character, right, David, has had with these salt and pepper shakers throughout all 5 seasons.
All series, the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
So it's been a major sort of point, which actually Ava uses to kind of ingratiate herself with Deborah towards the beginning. And she does all kinds of things for these. And you can tell there's this thing that she has, an obsession with these salt and pepper shakers, but also it shows a vulnerability. We almost get to see Deborah's vulnerable side through that. And in the moments of quiet, we have gotten to play the theme and some of the musical moments throughout the season. But all of a sudden, why not sing a song about the thing she loves the most? And the idea was to kind of talk mis figuritas, which are my little figurines, instead of saying salt and pepper shakers in Spanish. You say my little figurines. And then I think one of the personal things that was added was like I grew up in Central America, and my mom's from Guatemala or was from Guatemala, and she had these Yadro figures that
Yeah.
she would collect from Spain, and we had them all throughout the house, and I had to be very careful not to touch the Yadro figures because they had the hands that they have this little like the fingers are put just so, and if you touch it, you could break the fingers. So she's like, "Don't break your finger." So I kind of added that part, which wasn't in the salt and pepper shaker idea, but there she says, these figuritas, my little figurines that only I can love, of porcelain that I can only I can have them. They're the ones I love the most. Son las que más quiero yo. Solo son de Yadro. They're only made of Yadro. They're my life. So I just snuck that in. But when we present that, we're not expecting them. We're talking to you about this because this is the song that Lucia, Jen, and Paul approved, right? There's like
Yeah.
3 or 4 other versions of songs that were written. There was another song where we were kind of addressing, if you've watched the show, she also has a big issue with her sister that's been running for all 5
Yeah.
seasons. And so one of them was like, I stole my sister's shirt. I wore it and I kept it. That was literally the lyric. But when we send them out, we would always send it with the translation. And what worked for them was always what just was funny to them, that it just needed to work for the scene. And they were so hyper focused on what the scene was. And all these other things are always gifts, if if there's an earworm that seems to have happened with the song, which we did not expect, but it works with the story. And anyway, long story.
But why this genre of music? Why Tejano? Or why was that something that you thought was the appropriate way to make this work?
Oh, it was
I think
It was Lucia's idea.
yeah, it came from the writing of the show that they felt this was potentially the weakest category in the Grammys that
Yeah.
year, that she would be able to sneak in with some great song under the radar.
See,
Yeah, and
what you just
go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
No, they had reached out to us towards the end of summer with this. This is a plot point that was really important for them. It's sort of like how Deborah's going to get her EGOT. And she had studied with or analyzed it with McKinsey or hired McKinsey, which is this people that do this research analysis to tell her what's the quickest way to the EGOT? Well, in that particular category in the Grammy. So all of a sudden the task was given to us to kind of deliver a song that way. So it wasn't really our choice. Our job was to deliver a funny song, but our real onus was to do something that was respectful of the category, that wouldn't do in any way parody, but be honest and real, like it could compete, which has made this so meta.
Yeah, of course. And this again, I think really shows that Lucia, Paul, and Jen are comedy legends. They get it, because anyone who understands awards, and of course you're talking to me, this is what I do. Like, this is a very calculated thing where people think about what's the best way that I can get that award. Maybe if I do this and write this and do that and make it super sincere. And of course, that meta level is why it works so beautifully. So yeah, the more I think about it, the more I just think that is so smart, so interesting. So let's keep talking about it. So we've mentioned Lucia, Paul, and Jen Statsky. How does your collaboration with the 3 of them allow you to take creative risks? Like, talk me through what you most value about working with them. Well, obviously the show is over now, but what was the best part of that?
I guess, David, you could start.
Sure. I am reminded of episode 9, where we got to do this big orchestral piece towards the end. And I bring that up because it kind of talks about our collaboration. It's like a meta version of our collaboration from the beginning, in that, they want the emotion. They want us to underline what's going on with Deborah, with Ava, and their victories and their failures, and what goes on in their interior country. I'm quoting Carlos here, and so we had this moment there where we thought, oh, let's do something similar to what we've done in the past. And they said, no, bigger. And we said, okay. And they said, no, can you go even bigger? Look at the crowd. We're going to have VFX that's doing the skyline of the city. We're going to have this giant crowd. Make it bigger. And they allowed us to express our theme in a way that would accompany Deborah in the biggest moment of her career, and the biggest moment certainly of the show. And it's because they're always going after either the joke or the emotional quality in the scene that lets us feel like we can take a risk, we can try something and go bigger and go bolder, because that's why they need the music in the first place. They, like we said earlier, the comedy is there, but they need a little extra emotion. They need a little extra power. And so that gives us the opportunity to go for it. And we were lucky that they liked that direction, because then we got to hire an orchestra and record at Warner Brothers. And what bigger expression of emotion is there than hiring a 60-piece orchestra? You know what I mean? So that's, to me, our collaboration in a nutshell.
Wow. Also, I think, David, you're talking about episode 9, The Garden, which is what you were nominated for, by the way. We might just quickly talk about that nomination. As a scoring mixer, I'd love to bring the sound perspective into this. Like, so for a comedy like Hacks, how do you typically approach the final mix for, you know, when you've got score and dialogue, performance and comic rhythm and all the other things that make this show so wonderful? Your primary job is to make sure the score is really on point. So talk us through that challenge.
Sure. I would say, first of all, and this is something Carlos and I talk about in our writing, is that the dialogue is basically a melody. We let the dialogue be the melody and we wrap the music around that, you know, and then of course in the moments where there is no dialogue, then our melodies take center stage. But that goes, I think, into the mixing, because you're always making sure, can I hear what's going on? Can I also read in between the lines and see what the characters are feeling? And music can cover up something visually as well. So there's an element of mixing in our writing, because we're always trying to be careful with making sure what the writers have intended to be present on screen is really present. And then there are some nerdier aspects to the mixing, you know, some of the plugins that we use, some of the instruments that we record. But of course, we're also trying to fit some of our score in with the beautiful music supervision that Matt Biffa does, the songs, you know, the needle drops, which are such a huge part of the sound of the show. You know, we're never trying to make our music sound old or sound like it's from that time, but we take inspiration, right? So we use some instruments that are in those songs. You know, I might put a little filter or something to just smooth out some of the really modern high ends that we get in our recording process, just so that it sounds a little bit smoother, a little bit more, I don't know, rich and creamy, if that makes any sense. And of course, I also have to give credit to Scott Michael Smith, who recorded our orchestra and helped bring the mix of the orchestra in line with the mixing of the rest of the score for this show. So I'll stop there.
You know, you probably can't see the light bulbs going off in my head. When I think I know it all, I've done all my research, and then I get a quote like the dialogue is like a melody on this show, I'm just like, of course it is. Absolutely it is. And I'd never thought of that. That is so good. And on that note then, Carlos, you know, one of the great pleasures of Hacks, apart from the amazing needle drops and apart from the beautiful dialogue and the performances, is that the score does not seem trapped in one sound or genre. Beautifully melodic, but it's actually quite diverse. And so how do you keep all of that feeling like the same show?
I think it's just the strength of the original melodies that were written at the beginning of season 1. I think the fact that I was able to get to the Deborah Vance's theme and Ava Daniels' theme early. We were able to kind of capture that, and basically the sound of a person who is on the twilight of her career and struggling to stay on. We don't know that she's going to shine, but it's also a person who's on the beginning path of her career and they will shine together. That was sort of the fabric that kind of was able to be threaded together and varied throughout. It was an education for us. I mean, I'd never done comedy before. And so very, very concerned that stylistically, even I've talked about this before, but when I had the initial meeting, I had the interview, and it was during the pandemic, everything was starting to become boxes. And it was the first time I was on a meeting, and there was like 20 people on that meeting, like Michael Schur, all these producers and the 3 showrunners. And I thought I had done something wrong. You know, I felt like I was just like, and I don't know. And I think it was maybe one of the worst interviews I'd done, because I said, I don't know I don't know why you're thinking of me to do this, because it sounds like it's jazzy. It sounds like it's all this Vegas. There's a lot of Vegas going on, and I don't know how I would. And they took a big risk. I think. I think they took a gamble, and I think it was obviously because the Queen's Gambit had some music in it and they were looking for that kind of seriousness for the moment. And what I hadn't realized, and we've been talking a lot about it being a comedy, right, David? But the truth is, it's like a human story, and it's just about people, and they happen to be funny, and it happens to be funny, and that is the real life experience that we all have. We're happy, we're sad, and they laugh and they cry. There's a lot of crying in Hacks, from our main characters, and I think they wanted to kind of feel the strength of those moments to be punctuated with our work, and I think that was kind of the way in. And then it was adapting. There was like a disco version of the theme I had to do in episode 4 or something of season 1. I was like, what am I doing? And that kind of thing is what I get to talk to my students about. It's like being able to adapt on a turn, on a dime. David, we've done all kinds of genres in this particular show alone. And you learn as you go, because you just, as long as you're approved, you move on. So getting the approval is the hardest part, always.
Of course. And then, of course, you can stretch, you can take creative risks. And when they pay off, that's when you guys can really fly. On that note, like, Hacks has always understood that the funniest work comes from treating ridiculous ambition with absolute sincerity. And Miss Figuritas is a perfect distillation of that. And on that note, guys, thank you again for your time today. Congratulations on the Emmy nominations.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us so much. Great to talk with you.
Really great to talk to you, man. Real privilege.